All right, and welcome to Hat-Trick Sports Talk, our second show of the week, back-to-back days. Along with me, as always, is Shane and Brandon. How are you doing today, guys?
Hello, hello. Doing all right. How are you guys?
I'm okay.
Good, man. Good.
Just
All right.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here we go. This is not necessarily breaking news, but this just broke as we started the show. Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio has reported that the NFL has officially decided to reduce the preseason to 2 games. Thoughts on that?
I mean, it's no surprise. It was something that was in the talks anyways. And I mean, regardless of, coronavirus, it was something that they were thinking about doing anyways. So, yeah, I mean, there's been talk about, oh, there might not even be preseason at all or whatever. So, yeah, having it just be 2 games, I think I don't mind it. I think it'll be an interesting trial to see if it's what they want to do going forward because I mean honestly I don't think four preseason games are really necessary. I mean, these guys are pros. They don't need these 4 games to get ready or whatever. I mean, look at college guys; they don't have that, and they're just fine. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not. I mean, like I said, it's I mean, I guess it's a surprise that it actually is happening because I'll be honest, I didn't think it would this early. Um, but at the same time, it's like, it was something that I always considered a possibility. So,
Mhm.
you know, it'll be interesting.
Brandon, what does this mean for the guys on the bubble for these rosters? You know, the last few roster spots in what is it now, 56-man roster, or the updated practice squad, which I think is up by about 5 players. I think it's about 15. What does it mean for these guys on the bubble who are actually trying to make a roster and use all for preseason games, and now they only get 2?
So that's the thing. People always talk about preseason games being like they're not necessary. Well, think about this. You have 15 players or more than 15 players. You have your starting lineup from the year before, right? Let's say most of them come back. Those players are going to play probably. However, you don't know that. You need to see if players you have are going to be better. I think there's going to be a lot of players we're going to see who are going to be let go from different teams and end up on other teams because teams aren't going to have the chance to find that one superstar that they had to see play all the way until preseason game 4. And I would counter what Shane had to say about the preseason not really being necessary to be 4 games and how college players don't have a preseason. College players, if you think about it, they are really playing football throughout the entire year or practicing because they have their season and then they have spring, summer, fall camp leading into the season. So their body's always adjusted to that idea of hitting. They are they know what it's like, that feeling of hitting. Whereas that's one of the big reasons why they have preseason is to, even though they've changed it up recently where they don't do as much hitting in practice. It's for the players to adjust. It's for players' bodies to be able to adjust to the force that they're getting, get that feeling of hitting and being hit again, so that they don't have as many injuries. Um, it'll be interesting to see if 2 games can work. Um, personally, I like a lot of football, but if they're gonna in the future, if they're gonna expand the regular season to another game,
Which they are, I
which
think,
they
next
are,
year.
maybe they do. Just maybe it is necessary to just do 3 games and play the players. All either do 2 games or 3 games, but instead of having a game where it's just none of the starters play that much time, have them play more. I just think, along with the new players, I think we're not going to see any players who are our starters
No,
play
there's
in
no
either
way.
of the preseason games, which is, what's the point of televising them then?
Well, I mean,
Nobody's going to watch them.
you think I'm not gonna watch them? Like, I probably will. Like,
Well, casual fans.
Right. I mean, well, that's the thing. Like, the casual fans, like, you have to think about it from a position of Fox, NBC, CBS, right?
mhm.
They show these games because of the fact that
Rookies are playing in it, like Joe
rookies are
Burrow.
playing, and even when you get to game 4, where it's like players that are like on the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I think this year, I don't think we'll see the Joe Burrows or the yada yada yada. I think they will maybe get like a quarter of a game.
Maybe like a drive even.
Right, because those are the players who we know are going to play. Like the Burrows, the Tuas, so on and so forth. But I also think we're going to just see less players who are on the bubble this year because of the fact that the NFL is going to have to probably significantly decrease the amount of players that can be invited to camp.
They want to increase it, though, at this point.
I don't see that happening.
I would imagine they want over 100 players, which I don't think is, as you said, feasible. But I think another interesting piece of this as well is the networks. Because keep in mind, preseason week 1 and 4 are only on NFL Network, and then 2 and 3 are the other major networks, including NFL Network as well. But it's going to be interesting how they condense schedule and how many games they put on network television, and how do they decide first how the schedule looks, and then what national TV games are we going to have. So they said that this is an update. They'll eliminate weeks 1 and 4. So you're just going to have 2 and 3. So it's going to be like the middle of August. You're going to have a 1 week break before the season actually starts, basically.
Now, I will say this, though, because, Brannan was saying that people at the point of the preseason is to, kind of get players ready physically, which, in theory, that would be it, I would think. But then, starters never play in the preseason. So at that point, it's like.
But what about rookies, though? What about guys like Burrow, who get significant playing time?
Well, starters they play in most of the third game.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I don't know. Like and there's also the issue of having to figure out who you're going to sign and whatever. But I mean, you're taking 100 players and narrowing it down to 55. I mean, why can't we just take 75 and narrow it down to 55 through these 2 or 3 preseason games?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, what's the point of getting 5 extra guys that you are pretty sure aren't going to make it, and then you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, keep in mind, I think it's like 55 and 56, and then I think they bumped the practice squad to 15. So, basically, what you're suggesting is 75. If you have 75, you basically have the whole roster pretty much anyway. So I don't know. Like, that's where it's interesting, is they want to give these players a shot, and that's why they bring in 90, or I guess in this case 100, more than likely. But
yeah. I don't know.
I've always advocated for a spring game style preseason where
that's what I think as well. Or like a joint practice,
Yeah, I feel like a starters versus bench, or like some kind of rotational thing, and then like for 30 straight days on NFL Network in like, let's say, late July through August, they just have spring games for all 30 teams, and every day we have a game, like in the middle of the day or maybe later in the afternoon for prime time or whatever. And I think that would make more sense. And I also wonder why that wasn't necessarily used here, because they could have easily done that throughout the whole month. Obviously, I don't know how feasible it is to have 53 guys in the same building or whatever, but it would have been interesting for them to try out some kind of something like that in this scenario as well, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's
mean,
move. Go ahead, Shane.
I
Sorry.
was just gonna say, I mean, I see the purpose of the preseason, but in the end, I mean, guys just get hurt before, for competition that really doesn't matter in the long run. So I don't know. Recently, I've just lost the purpose in it, I guess.
Yeah, I think the first couple of weeks are really fun, but I always lose interest
Yeah.
kind of towards the end. Excuse me. Um, and then some other news, according to the league as well, is this was just reported a few minutes ago by the Athletics' Daniel Kaplan, reports that the league is considering a plan that will allow fans to attend games this fall after signing a waiver promise not to sue the league if they get COVID-19. How willing are you guys to potentially go to a game this fall? Brandon, I'll start with you. How willing are you to even go to a game?
Well, that's not really a question for me, considering I've been to only one football game, one NFL game in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the discussion too is you have to realize that it is a television product first.
Yeah, like when I went to the game, I literally had that realization. I was like, football's kind of boring watching it live at a game.
It's much different compared to like the
Like
NBA or the NHL or something.
or MLB. I'm the opposite with MLB, right? I find watching baseball on TV to be incredibly boring. However, I find it very exciting at the game. And for me, part of that is because I get up, I walk around, I enjoy the atmosphere, yada, yada, yada. NFL games, to me, don't have atmosphere. It's just a bunch of drunk people yelling. And, like, it's so much better watching it on TV.
I think also part of it is the way that the schedule is run, right? Because you wake up at 9:30 in the morning, 10 to like 5, you watch Red Zone because there's like a bunch of games on at one time. So if you go to a game at like 10 o'clock at night, you miss like half of the schedule. But Shane, what's your feeling on actually going to games in this era or in this NFL season, especially in the fall? Would you want to go to a game, or do you feel more comfortable watching it on TV?
I wouldn't want to. I mean, I don't see the risk,
Right.
Plus, you gather all those people, and it's not just. It kind of. It sounds very selfish of them to say, "Oh, don't sue us if you contract it." It's like, okay, that shouldn't be your biggest concern. Your biggest concern should be, oh, we're gonna get 50,000 people in this place together, and if they all spread this virus to so many people, I mean, they could give it to millions of people.
Right.
But do we really see them like having a full stadium?
Right. And that's part of it. It's also a state by state basis as well. Like I think Texas only wants about 25% capacity at Cowboys games. So it will still be pretty spread out.
Like
but
that's the thing. Like I wouldn't go to a game just because I don't go to a game normally. But like if I was to go to a game, I feel like I would be fine going to a game in Seattle, right? Because of the mask protocol, because of the way that Washington State and specifically King County and specifically Seattle has been handling the crisis. And like if it was a 25%, like for example, as you said with Texas, like if they're going to fill a stadium like 25%, I think that's fine because that way you can like spread people out throughout the stadium, and then it still kind of adds an atmosphere for on television.
Yeah, but plus you won't have fans like down, close to the field because they're tapering that off anyway.
And I think honestly, here's the way I think about it, right? It has been proven that wearing a mask basically takes away a lot of the risk of transmission.
Mm-hmm.
Like 98.5.
Right, exactly. So that's why I've gotten, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna rant for 1 second
Go
as a
ahead.
sports fan.
Go ahead.
The reason why I have been such a proponent of masks, and the reason why for the last months as on this show, where I've kept being so annoyed at people being like, "Oh, we can't bring sports back." I've kept wanting to say it's a very, 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 very easy concept for not for the players per se. That's where they need to figure out how to
Right.
bring players back.
Players and coaches and
But I
stuff like that.
keep hearing people saying, "Oh, but we can't have fans in the stands." Well, it's a very simple way of doing things, right?
25% and everyone wears masks.
25%. You make masks mandatory in life, in the outside world, and once you've gotten rid of the big spikes and everybody's still wearing the masks, and you know it's going to be safe, then you can have people come into your games and make masks mandatory. That's why, Robert, I believe next season, even if we still have somewhat of a case of corona wandering around, I don't think it's going to be as big of an issue in society, because I think people are going to realize you can either complain about wearing a mask, or we can have a life. We can go to games. We can go out and about. We can go to movies. Or we can just complain about it and say it's a big issue and sit on our butts in our houses, and the people who actually want to wear the masks are going to suffer
Mm-hmm.
because of other people.
Shane, what is your perspective on Brandon's rant there?
Yeah, I mean, if people, if people want to go to games at quarter capacity, and if it's mandatory, wear a mask, whatever. Sure, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I just wouldn't, like I said a minute ago, I wouldn't want full capacity and just because that would be bad. But But yeah, I mean, it's it's not especially if it's an outdoor stadium, then that helps, obviously. So
I have a very hard time believing that any state is going to allow for full capacity for fans.
Absolutely not. It would be a terrible idea.
Except for maybe Florida.
No, I don't think so.
Even then, we joke around about Florida, but I feel like Florida has even gotten around to the point where now they're starting to realize, if we want to have a society until this thing goes away, or until we can get it down to non-pandemic levels, we're going to have to do things like wearing a mask. And I was out and about today, and I was overjoyed to see everybody wearing masks.
It is a good feeling.
Because the thing is, it made me, for the first time in months, feel a level of normality.
Right.
A level of safety, a level of everybody's on the same damn page.
Yes.
And it's I don't want to get we don't get too political on here, but that's it's something that is something that I just wanted to bring up, because it does bother me when people are like, "Oh, we're not going to be able to have events or go to stuff like this for a while," and I'm like, it's a very simple fix.
It's not necessarily inherently political. We're talking about it in a sports way, but we're also talking about it in a public health way. How do we make sure? Obviously, we haven't gotten to the sense, and we're going to get to it in a minute, about the players and how that's a much different thing, players and coaches.
Right.
But at least for the fans, that perspective is, I think, important, because we're focusing on how do we make sure the public health and the fans' health that are in the stadium are safe, and we can enjoy, sports as fans, not only on TV, which is obviously the easiest, but also in the arena. But Brandon, I'll start with you here as well with the players. There are a lot of players not playing in 2020. And so how does that inherently change the way you look at Major League Baseball and the NBA as they are about to start their seasons in a few weeks?
So today's the last day for players to opt out of the NBA. And I believe it's also for players to opt out of MLB. The interesting thing is, you've seen some players opt out already, but not really a ton of major stars.
Yeah.
You've seen more so on the side of MLB. You've seen a couple. You've seen Ryan Zimmerman. You've seen Mike Leake, who used to play for the Mariners, who had a great season last year. But what's interesting is you're seeing a lot of players opting out, and then you're seeing messaging coming from teams saying, we support players' rights to opt out based upon the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting to me because I was not expecting teams to be fine with this. It's basically what teams in the MLB at least are doing is they are basically putting players' contracts on hold.
No, that's the same with the NBA as well.
Right. And I think that's the right way to handle it. I think a lot of the teams are basically recognizing that this is a very strange season. I mean, in reality, it's only a 60-game season. I'm sure in the record books in the future there'll be an asterisk next to whoever wins the World Cup, or for MLB,
Mm-hmm.
saying like, "Oh,
World Series.
coronavirus." World Series, yeah. But going back to the question you asked, I don't think it would really impact the way I look at seasons being played, because for me, I think it would have impacted me more if players were forced to play under threat of like contract dispute or pay dock or something like that, especially in this time and age and that we're playing in. I think we're gonna see as I said, most of the big stars are gonna play.
Mm-hmm.
The LeBrons, the Kawhis,
Anthony Davis.
You're gonna, and I mean, up and coming players
Giannis.
You're gonna see like all the major players on teams are there. However, what would change things for me is if we get through the eight games, we get into the playoffs, we get through the first round, and we're getting into the into the round where it's getting serious, and you're starting to have like the Raptors versus the Bucks or the Lakers versus the Clippers, and let's say LeBron gets COVID and he's out.
Mm-hmm.
For me, automatically, even if the Raptors beat the Bucks and go on to beat the Lakers, it's different for me in that situation than it was last year, where when the Bucks beat Golden State.
Mm-hmm.
Because the difference for me is there's a difference between injury and getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
Like if LeBron got like COVID and then got sick and had to sit out for the rest of the season, they go on to lose because LeBron's a huge part of that team. That's kind of an asterisk for me.
So Shane, let's expand on this as well. Not only your thoughts on the players, opting out, but also the fact that I believe the Dodgers and the Bucks have said that, this championship won't have an asterisk because this will be the toughest championship to win. And also the idea that, as Brandon said, like, God forbid someone like LeBron gets COVID, it sort of changes the way we look at the season or the playoffs. What are your perspective on those three things?
Well, I mean, it is a possibility that something like that could happen. I mean, it's unlikely since they're kind of living in their bubble. But it is still something to be aware of, and regardless of who plays or who doesn't plays or who doesn't play or whatever, it's just I mean, I think we can all agree that this NBA season has been very strange. And it will continue to be strange, because, I mean, when have we ever seen something like this where we had to stop in the middle of the season and then come back with this strange 22 team format and whatever? But what was the okay? So you said LeBron and the Lakers and COVID and whatever. And what was the other thing that you were asking about?
Also, I believe the Dodgers and the Bucks also spoke on the fact that the championships this year are actually gonna or shouldn't have an asterisk on them because they're going to be the toughest championships to win. Do you
Right.
agree with that statement?
Um. Yes and no. I mean, I understand why there would be one since it's a shortened season. Uh, but at the same time, I mean, they did win, you know. So I mean, it's not like, I mean, give credit where credit is due. I mean, it's not like something where you should just say, "Oh, they won," but it's a bit special this year. It's like, I mean, yes, we all know that, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's still a World Series or it's still an NBA title or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case may be. So, um, I mean, I see both sides on it, but I mean, at the end of the day, I would, I would say no, there should not be one, personally.
So a question I have is with the Raptors being in Orlando early or being in Florida early, do you think that gives them an advantage? The
No, not
fact,
really, because everyone's training anyway.
right? But at the same time, they've gotten there earlier. They've been able to set up their own system,
I don't
their
think they're
own
in the bubble yet,
whatever.
though. I don't think they're in there yet. Are
Well,
they?
it doesn't. I think they're in the bubble. Um, and even if they're not in the bubble, they don't have to take as much time. They don't have to. I mean, yeah, it's a reach. The only reason I asked is because it was a conversation that I heard on ESPN radio on the weekend, and they were talking about it, and like I felt it was a little bit of a reach, but at the same time, not having to when it gets closer to the actual date of the start of the season,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe would be
It's
in
the 30th.
25,
It's like
20.
a month.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know.
That
It's nitpicky things, but
that kind of piece for me, obviously, I think the reason why they're in Orlando early is sort of to avoid what the Blue Jays are going through at this moment, which is to figure out, okay, are they going to play games at their stadium in Toronto, or are they
right.
going to play somewhere like Florida? I think they wanted to avoid that. Also, I think it was also approved by the Canadian government that they could do that or all that stuff. So it was mostly a government
Yeah.
decision. I don't think it does give an advantage because it's I mean, everyone is still training pretty much normally. Obviously, COVID has changed some of those procedural things and all that. But no, I don't think it does because, I mean, in a couple of weeks, everyone's going to kind of be stationed there and figure things out. So I don't think it's an advantage just because it was mostly a government and NBA
Yeah.
decision to get them there early so they don't have to deal with stuff that, for example, the Blue Jays are dealing with.
Right. One thing that I wanted to cover that I found out about driving home, that's not on our list of things to talk about, but the NHL has announced the locations
Oh, they have.
for host cities, and they will be both in Canada. Interestingly enough, one of
Wow.
the cities will be Edmonton, and one of the cities will be Toronto,
Edmonton and Toronto.
which to me make a lot of sense. And the reason I'll tell you this, being a Canadian, geographically, Edmonton and Toronto are sort of close to each other, but they are at the same time they divide the two different parts of the country. Like they have Toronto's very eastern, Edmonton's more western. So basically the reason it makes sense to me is it has easy both these cities have easy access points for teams coming from different parts of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's Canada.
Bubble.
Huh?
In the middle of nowhere. Edmonton is like in its own bubble in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's true. And Toronto has been doing pretty good. I'm just gonna be interested to see. It's kind of interesting though, because at the same time, it gives two teams. I'll be interested to see if like they put Toronto and Edmonton and Toronto.
That's probably what's going to happen.
Because if
I'm
they
willing
don't, that's going to be some unfair home field advantage.
They still have to be in the bubble. Like they can't go back home, So
right, but like they get their training facilities, they get their home ice, their home. As a hockey fan, that it's like home ice is a big deal.
So here's my perspective on this. As you said, they're close cities, but I think part of this as well is that was one of the strange things for me when Gary Bettman announced that they were going to do 2 hub cities, because at some point, the teams that are, in this case, in Toronto are going to have to play the teams that are in Edmonton to crown a Stanley Cup champion. So because they're so close in proximity, it makes a lot of sense. And I think Canada as a whole is actually doing better with COVID-19 than America. So it would make a lot of sense, I think. Shane, what do you think with that?
Also, there was no way they were going to do a Canadian and a American team.
Right.
Like city.
Shane, what is your perspective on this?
Yeah, I mean, like Brandon said, there's no way it was going to be split just because it's, it's so tricky to travel internationally right now. So that would have been interesting, to say the least. But I guess I was expecting it to be an American city, since Canada doesn't really want any Americans coming up there, which understandably. So yeah, I mean, I think Toronto and Edmonton are probably the best options, just geographically and culturally, like Brandon said. So I mean, at first I was thinking it would be like Vegas maybe as one of them, but now that I think about it, this actually makes a lot more sense to do it this way. So yeah.
Also, in some other hockey news, this is something that I only just saw. NHL is close to ratifying a new CBA agreement that would allow for NHL players to return to the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
For the first time, both in 2022 and 2026.
How thankful are we as hockey fans?
Yeah. I mean, look, I believe, as much as I love seeing professional sports in America, the moment you take away pro athletes from Canada and America from hockey or NBA in the Olympics, it becomes boring.
Oh, 100%.
I'm sorry. I mean, it was just atrocious. I mean, Shane, I don't know if you watched any of the hockey in the Winter Olympics and the last Winter Olympics, but like there were no professional hockey players from Canada and America. So like those teams got trounced by like Sweden and all those teams, who also had a lot of players taken away from them because of NHL.
I do recall.
The women's tournament was better.
Yeah, that's true.
The women's tournament was way more interesting.
Yeah. Because they didn't have to worry about the NHL. Doesn't the NBA also suffer from that? Like, aren't players not allowed to?
No, the NBA in their CBA allows them to. They never had that happen, I don't think.
Here's something interesting. The MLB will have to put something like that in their CBA for the upcoming Summer Olympics because baseball's coming back. Mm-hmm. Which I'm excited for.
All right, so let's drift away from hockey. That was a good addition, Brandon. Thank you very much for that.
You're
Let,
welcome.
let's talk about
This is being Brannan Widdis at the Breaking News Sports Desk.
all right, so Shane, I'll start with you. I wanted to get you and Brandon's opinion on Cam Newton signing with the Patriots. Shane, you go first.
I don't think it's a good fit, like, at all. But I am excited to see it because I'm wondering how it will work. Because, Belichick is obviously a very smart coach, very good one, obviously. And so, he's never really had a mobile quarterback. In a lot of ways, he's kind of the opposite of Brady. And so I really want to see how he's going to fit into that system. And not only that, but how Belichick plans to utilize him. I think it's interesting to note that it's only a 1-year deal because that means that they don't necessarily want this to be a permanent thing. I think the reason is that Belichick kind of wants to see if he can, how he can work with a mobile quarterback so that they can get a guy like Lawrence right next year. Not that they will get him, but because that's the league is kind of moving in that direction. So for that reason, I get it. I don't really know where else Cam would have gone because pretty much every other team has a starting guy. Granted, I think Cam Newton is a lot better than many of said teams' starting person, but that's none of my business. Anyways, so yeah, so it was, I was thinking a few weeks ago, I was like, well, the only place Cam could pretty much end up now is New England, and I was like, that's not gonna happen, and sure enough, it did. So, yeah, I am excited though. I'm really curious as to how this is gonna work because honestly, I I think it's a strange fit, but I feel like something really good could come out of it as well. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Brandon, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I just don't think it fits. It's like I'm sure he's a fine quarterback. I don't know how well he's gonna fit with Belichick. Again, it it's it gives Belichick a really good opportunity to prove that it's not just Brady. That he doesn't need Brady to be as good. So,
And then there's another interesting piece of this as well with Jared Stidham. Like, does Jared Stidham actually start for them a good portion of the season? Like in week 1, do you feel like Stidham's going to start, Brandon, or do you think Cam is going to win the job in the shorter preseason?
I think we'll see, but I feel like they're going to want to go with the guy who they can for sure that they can for sure like get behind.
That's the thing.
The guy who has proven it. But at the same time, has he really? He's proven it, but like he's also proven that he's injury prone. So I don't know.
That's the thing for me. It's like, what was I gonna say? God, I hate it when this happens.
We're talking about Cam and like his injury prone, and then him and Stidham.
Oh, because Belichick. Okay, I remember now. Sorry about that. So Belichick, he and the Patriots, they say that, oh yeah, Stidham's our guy, but I don't believe it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sold that they really believe that. Whereas, like, look at a guy like Garoppolo, right? When you saw him and everyone was like, oh, yeah, this will be Brady's replacement. And I believed that Belichick and the Patriots really believed that. Hence the reason they tried to trade him to San Francisco. They tried to trade Brady to San Francisco.
Yeah.
They weren't willing to do that with Stidham. So I don't yeah, I mean and then when everyone's like, "Oh, so you're really going to be their starting guy?" And then, "Oh, guess what? We got an MVP quarterback."
I don't know if you can consider him MVP quarterback anymore.
Well, he has one.
He was an MVP quarterback.
No, I know.
There's a difference between somebody who is an MVP quarterback, like
he still has the experience.
6 seasons ago, and then ever since he won the MVP, he's fallen off the face of the earth.
No, I'm not saying he's as great anymore. I mean, I'll be honest. I never thought Cam was that great to begin with.
Yeah.
But he's still, he's been to a Super Bowl. He still has the experience of leading a franchise and, doing well and whatnot. So
Right. And honestly, I'll be honest, it bothers me a little bit that he has an MVP, but Russell doesn't.
Yep.
But Russell's never even had a single.
That bothers me a lot.
Yep, I think that bothers every NFL fan.
That
a
is
lot.
not okay.
Here's my problem with Cam Newton, and here's what I'm interested in with him and Belichick. I hate Cam Newton's accuracy.
Yep.
His accuracy is horrible.
He's inconsistent.
At least, Jameis could hit the guy he's throwing the interception to.
Look, I think. Go ahead, Shane. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, to me, that's like they're complete opposites to me, because Brady is, he's more humbled, or at least he acts like he is. He's
Brady humble?
I mean, he's a good leader.
Okay. Yeah,
Let's say that.
I'll give you that.
He's consistent. He's accurate. He's very intelligible of the game. Whereas Cam Newton, those are kind of his weaknesses, but he's fast. He has a strong arm.
Cam Newton's not fast anymore. The guy's not going to run.
He got injured and now he can't run.
He's faster than Brady. Let's be honest.
Hey, as much crap as I give Brady, the dude got, what was it? He got like over he passed 1,000 yards
last season.
After advancing. Dude, it's so funny. Sorry to interrupt you, Shane, but it's so funny to look at his rushing stats, because it's like every game in his career leading up, it literally goes, if you were to put it on like a chart, it would look like someone was having like heart palpitations, because like it spikes and then goes down, spikes and goes down, spikes and goes down, because he like goes forward and then loses yards, gains yard, loses yard, gains yards, loses yards. It's hilarious.
Shane, so what else with Brady for you, comparing Brady to Newton here?
Well, to me, they're just kind of opposites, because Cam's kind of immature, and then he is not very accurate, but I think he has a stronger arm, and he's not as athletic like he used to be, but he is more athletic than a guy like Brady. So yeah, I mean, the only thing that they have in common is that they're both good-looking dudes. I mean, other than that, like, I don't, there's no similarity. So.
Oh my God, this is such a funny segment. What happened?
I mean, I'm not wrong.
No, you're not. I mean,
handsome guys.
I mean, like, okay, so.
Everything Brady makes you irk, man, and we're gonna get to something that you'll enjoy after this.
And like, I'll say this about Brady: like, I don't think he was a good quarterback for a long time, I will never say Tom Brady is a great quarterback because he had a lot of really good people around him for a long damn time.
And
Not many receivers.
No, dude,
Edelman,
Amendola, he had the receivers to get the job done.
Yeah.
He had the best tight end ever to play the game in Gronkowski.
Yeah,
Hands down. He had Amendola, he had Edelman, he had, for most of his career, I would argue all of his career, he had, okay, not all of his career, but for most of his career, he had one of the best lines in the game.
I've never been too keen on the Patriots line, but okay.
His lines have been very good. He's had, for the beginning of his career, he had a very good defense behind him. And you have to admit, he got lucky a couple times at the beginning of his career. Like, he got some lucky calls go his way. Yes, he's a good quarterback, but like, there's something about Tom Brady that has like endeared him to the refs. But at the end of the day, no one's gonna replace Tom Brady in New England until they prove it to me. Because he is like the reason people hate him, and the reason people say Tom Brady's terrible and he's the worst and he's a good player, but like he's the worst, is he's like,
because they win.
He's the Darth Vader of the evil empire that is the Patriots for the last 10, 12 years. He somehow found a way to win.
He's Vader and Belichick is the Emperor.
Yes, exactly. And
I just don't.
I don't see that. I don't see somebody just coming in and continuing that legacy. It has to be over. Like, maybe they'll be successful. They're not gonna be like long live the second rise of the empire successful.
So for example, if they don't sign Cam to a long-term deal after this season and they get Trevor Lawrence or even Justin Fields, I think everyone's just going to freak out. So I don't know. I think we'll have to wait till next year's draft to see what actually happens to the Patriots.
They would only get Trevor Lawrence if they tanked probably, and I don't think that's going to happen now that they have Cam.
Yeah. But I think probably at best 7 and 9 or 8 and 8, more than likely.
Yeah.
Maybe Trey Lance is someone they might look at as an early day 2 pick. But Brandon, I'll start with you since you've been going on the Patriots. Literally 16 minutes after the Cam Newton story, the Patriots were fined $1.1 million and will lose their 2021 third-round pick for filming the Bengals sideline. It was a really bizarre story last year. This was reported by Adam Schefter. Brandon, what are your thoughts on them losing their third-round pick?
Can someone explain to me how the Patriots keep cheating and 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 cheating some more, and they keep getting slapped on the wrist? Ow, that really hurt.
Like, this wasn't cheating though. This was their stupid stupid do your job program. This was not them cheating.
It was cheating, Robert.
This was the video guy being stupid.
No, it's you believe that, Robert?
Yes. Because the story was
that.
Why do they even need to record a Bengals team that sucked last year?
Cheaters are gonna cheat. Because they're used to cheating and they cheat. That's what they do. They're cheater pants.
I'm gonna chime in since you
go ahead.
Cool off. Okay. I'm kind of 50-50 on this because I agree with Robert that they have no reason to film the Bengals because they sucked last year and that's just kind of a throwaway game. However, they do, like Brannan says, they do obviously have a history of cheating, and they cheat a lot in many ways, and there's
been like 2 major scandals, but yes.
Well,
probably
yes,
more that we don't know about.
Right, and they're not punished for it really. So, for that reason, it is kind of sketchy. Um, I don't know. I mean, I just, I kind of want to, like, if there's something like Deflategate that happens again, like something that severe, or
Spygate.
Spygate or whatever, yeah, if something like that happens again, I think that, I mean, I honestly, I think they should, like, I don't know what kind of, like, the organization should be fined a lot of money.
Yeah.
And,
I don't know. But here's my thing. This is not like Spygate or Deflategate for me in that there's something about this story to me that doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not just the Bengals thing, whatever, Bengals fine, but like it's the fact that it was a video guy, it was the whole do your job thing. The Patriots literally fired the video guy after. We watched Jay Glazer. We talked about Jay Glazer's video. Shane, you and I, when Cole was in for our holiday show last year, and we watched the video and we talked about the video, and the video was even weird. It didn't seem like Belichick or their coaching staff knew anything about this, if at all. And that's where
that's
I'm
the
like,
thing.
that's why I just don't feel it's the same validity. It's not the same thing.
You
Yeah.
have to remember, Spygate was against the Jets in 2007, when the Jets were also not good.
They were better than most. I mean, a couple years
but,
later,
like,
they
you
got
could
to a
ask
title game.
I asked the same question that year. I was like, why would you need to spy on the Jets of all teams?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Here you ask, why would they do it? Why would they spy on the Bengals?
But that's
Right?
not a piece of my question, though.
Here's the answer. Here's my response to that. Because they can. Because they're the Patriots and they can. And when something becomes so part of an environment, of a culture, of a team, of just how it goes down. Because you think about it, Belichick, Brady, all those guys, they are used to cheating. They are used to getting away with it. And Belichick, I mean, hypothetically, right? This is all hypothetical. Hypothetically, Belichick could have been like, I mean, yes, it's the Bengals. Like, what? Like, it's confusing. Why of all teams? But at the same time, if I'm Belichick, and you're in a team that's like not as good as it used to be, you're pulling out all the stops to make sure you're getting the wins against teams you should be winning.
Well, hang on, Brandon. Here's my thing. Well, yes, I mentioned the Bengals thing first, and that's an important piece of this puzzle. There are more pieces that don't make a lot of sense. Like, why would it be the video guy from the do your job thing? Why would he gotten fired immediately after that news broke? Why was the Jay Glazer video so bizarre? And it didn't seem like Belichick or most of the Patriots organization knew anything about it. So do you see why I don't feel like this has the same validity as those other two scandals of Spygate and Deflategate, and why this feels so strange to me?
Yeah, but also at the same time, at the end of the day, I'm just so... These are the reasons, Robert, why I hate everything that the Patriots stand for, and any player and everything that's ever touched the Patriots. And it might be a little unreasonable, but it's the fact that, like, even if this is even if this is a reasonable fine for this one, which I feel like it kind of is, because yes, there's like no way to solidly say they were acting in whatever. It's just the fact that for years they've been getting away with stuff like this and not getting any actual normal, like, on level of the punishment. Have you ever heard the phrase, the punishment should fit the crime?
Mm-hmm.
Punishment has never fit the crime with the Patriots.
With Spygate and Deflategate more
Yeah.
particularly. So it kind of just leaves a bad taste in your mouth at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I can understand. All right, and Shane, let's move forward. I'll start with you here with Chris Jones and the Chiefs. Now, they're looking at potentially getting a long-term deal. But Chris Jones tweeted a couple days ago saying, "I won't play if they don't come to a deal by the July 15th deadline." Of course, Chris Jones has the franchise tag, but he wants to get a long-term contract done by the end of the next couple of weeks. What are your thoughts on those negotiations, obviously with the Patrick Mahomes contract looming pretty soon as well?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I understand why he wants, a big deal, but I mean, 20 million plus per year, when you got a guy like Mahomes with his big deal coming up, and also, you know, a lot of other players that you still have to sign and keep on that team, to keep some kind of a franchise going. I don't. I think that's a bit unreasonable. I'll be honest. Again, I get it. I mean, I think Jones deserves his fair share for sure. But yeah, 20 is just a bit absurd to me. I mean, I like, if I'm the Chiefs GM, I would say like 15, 16 probably.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would offer him per year. But yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
16
I'm
mil
just
is the
kind of
franchise tag.
right. Oh yeah, right. I don't know. I'm just kind of tired of, honestly. I'm just kind of tired of players. It seems like this has been happening a lot the last few years, like more so than ever, of just players being so greedy and wanting way more than they're actually worth. Like him, Clowney, who Cook from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why are you so set on getting your extra 2 million? It's like, okay, you're still gonna get $16 million. Oh, boo-hoo, cry me a river. I mean, like, it's just dumb. I don't know. And this isn't just football too. I mean, it's baseball. We've had a 3-month long debate about players and owners being greedy over there, and so whatever. It's just, I mean, yeah, pay him. Obviously, he's great, but for him to say, "Oh, if I don't get 20 million, I'm not going to play." It's like, dude, just shut up and take your money. And I mean, what do you expect to get when you have the best player in the entire league wanting to extend his contract?
And like basically make the quarterback market.
Yeah, and I mean they'll have to probably. So yeah.
Brandon, are you starting to get tired as Shane is with all these contract negotiations?
Yeah.
Yay, we agree.
All right, let's move forward to our division previews. This week we're doing a fun one. We're doing a really interesting division of the AFC North.
I really wanted this one to be last.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that's why, because when we were planning on which weeks to do the divisions and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, we should do the northern divisions last, because I feel like there's some interesting discussion to be had with the North.
This is still a really fun division, though, as you mentioned. So,
Yeah.
Shane, I'll start with you. You put this up on our chat, obviously an Instagram post. You got us a lot of interesting Instagram posts over a few months here on Zoom. But this is something that we've had debate on for a few months about Lamar Jackson and his rush attempts, and how much of an injury concern is it for him that he's rushing and not taking as much slides as this picture shows. But kind of clarified the point that you and Brandon have continued to discuss over the last few months.
I mean, he just seems kind of careless when he runs with the ball. I mean, he's taking all kinds of hits from big guys that he really should not be taking at all, because he's not a huge guy. I mean, I don't know if he keeps up with that. I mean, honestly, I don't think he's gonna stay healthy. I mean, I hope that's not the case, obviously, but it's just like I don't know. You look at guys like RG3, for instance, who just run around like that, and look at what happened to him. I don't know. It worries me. Um, he doesn't have an injury history yet that I know of. Um, but guys in the NFL, from college or whatever, but guys in the NFL are a lot bigger and stronger. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that there's going to be a guy like, TJ Watt within his own division who are like, well, we want to win the division, so sorry, but I'm going to go for your knee or something. And, I mean, even if no one's actually saying it, some people are thinking it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Brandon, with all the focus on quarterback health and safety, and obviously it's been a huge concern over the last 3 years. Obviously, it doesn't entirely exclude Lamar because obviously, Lamar needs to protect himself. But do you think this is something that they should put much more of a focus on, not only the Ravens but the coaching staff on trying to get him to slide more and protect himself more for long-term health?
Well, yeah. I would say, for example, look at Russell Wilson, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he first started playing, he slid, but he didn't slide nearly as much as he does now. And even then, when he did slide, he slid a lot when he first started, but a lot of his sliding was he would get right up to the guy who was coming at him and then slide. So he's now started saving himself, basically. Like, there were times that I've seen him get smacked because he slid late. And I remember thinking, man, Russell, you're so talented, but you gotta realize what's important here. And now he's definitely started sliding earlier, and I believe I have to believe part of that is conversations with Pete Carroll going yo, you're the golden goose for this team. If you get hurt, this team doesn't operate. Lamar Jackson, he needs to realize that he's not invincible. He's young, he's a good player, but to rush 352 times and to only slide twice, I'm telling you, one of these days, we're going to watch a game. He's going to be running, not see the guy coming across the field, and just get his clock rung. Because there were 2 or 3 times this season where I saw Lamar take off running. I was like, oh man, he was doing his going out of bounds thing, and there was a guy literally a foot away from just destroying him. The body is not built to take unprotected hits. And he does a good job now of getting out of bounds. But it only takes one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you feel like as time goes on, as you talk about with Russell Wilson early in his career, obviously Lamar is going into what would this be? His 3rd season now? Do you think as time goes on, he'll start to realize that more often, similar to Russell Wilson from early his career to late?
Yeah, I think Russell, I mean, I would say that he's changed up his style a bit. He doesn't. I would argue that he's not a really a running quarterback that much anymore. Last season, I would argue that he became sort of a pocket passer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because it's he developed his arm. Now that his arm is developed, I would say his arm is more deadly than his ability to run.
And Shane, this is something that you and I have discussed, or pretty much all discussed very often, is how much these quarterbacks, when they get in the league, they start kind of running, and then over time, they really develop a really lethal passing game. And that kind of becomes their MO, not as much their running as they go through their careers.
Yeah, and I mean, you definitely, I think last year we definitely saw Lamar improve a lot as the year went on with his throwing ability, making a lot of really good deep balls and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him. But it's just because I've seen tapes of him in high school, and he's been playing exactly like this for years and years and years. And so when you have a guy playing like that their whole life, it's very hard to just all of a sudden stop and change your habit. You know what I mean? It's not impossible, but it's really hard. And yeah, he might start running less, but does that mean he's going to slide more? I don't know. Um, maybe. History would tell us probably not, just from what I've seen of him. But I don't know. I mean, it's. I think he needs to in order to, last longer. Because even if he doesn't get injured, as time goes on, he's just gonna slowly get kind of beat up, and he's gonna be less athletic.
Cam Newton's a good example of that, I think.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope he learns and gets smarter about that as time goes on, but we'll see.
An interesting article or an interesting tidbit from offensive coordinator Greg Roman about wide receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown. He said he had a great offseason physically. Hollywood has basically said how he really wants to become a much better receiver, and he thinks he can definitely be a key for this team to hopefully get to a Super Bowl next year, at least for their sake in Baltimore. How important will Hollywood be to Lamar's success as time goes on, especially next year? Brandon, you go first.
I don't know. Again, like a lot of these players, I don't buy it until I see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't. It's kind of like you don't say a movie is best picture worthy until you've watched it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a player being like the best until I've seen him play.
Especially for a guy like Hollywood who wasn't tremendously productive last year. Shane, do you have the same sentiment?
Yeah, I mean, I think he could be good just because, because I think Baltimore is a good organization with, a good trajectory. But I mean, it's kind of I think it's kind of, I think it's a bit early in the game to be able to tell just how valuable he is. I mean, I think we just haven't seen enough of him, really. He is, he is young, obviously. And, this is a very, this is a very, let's just be honest, it's a run center team, right? So, I don't know. I get what he's saying, obviously, because we all want to be the best at whatever it is we're doing. yeah, I mean, I want to see like a whole season with Lamar passing more developed as a passer, which I think we'll probably get this year. So that should be fun. But yeah,
Brandon, who's your X factor for this Baltimore Ravens squad?
I'm gonna go with
There's a lot of good options for this
I
team.
don't know,
yeah,
maybe Marquise Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, like, if he becomes really good, I would argue this team is like unfair. Because like they were really good last year, and arguably they were like, I don't know. I feel like the only thing this team needs is to learn how to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Because like like they can't, for some reason,
The playoffs.
they just don't do well in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
they're like the Saints of the AFC.
Yeah.
In some way, yeah. Shane, who's your X factor?
I mean, for me, it's the obvious choice, Lamar Jackson. Just because I mean, we've never seen a guy like this at quarterback who is so versatile. Um, I mean, he has the speed of a running back, and usually when you have a quarterback like that, it's a guy like Jalen Hurts who is a good runner, but not necessarily the best passer. But Lamar is a good passer as well. I think he works really well for this team um, because he kind of drives their run game and pass game. And I mean, he definitely is a nightmare for defenses. So he's my guy. But there are a ton of good choices.
Yeah. My choice is a little out of the box. It's Patrick Queen, the rookie linebacker. I think that he fits this organization perfectly. This is a defensive-centric team, and to have a guy in the middle as fast as Patrick Queen is, as athletic as he is, that can only make this defense better. It's a very veteran defense, but it's a very excellent defense in so many different perspectives. Patrick Queen will develop very quickly in the system, as pretty much every defensive player does with Baltimore. But I think Patrick Queen's going to be a key right there in the middle of the field, kind of controlling everything there. All right, and let's move on to our next team, which is the let's see, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, this is a simple question. I'll start with you first, Shane. Big Ben, how successful can he be in 2020?
Honestly, I think he's kind of done. I mean, he's definitely been on the decline the last few years, and having injuries doesn't help that. He's very injury prone. He's old and unathletic now. I don't really have any expectations for him, I'll be honest. I mean, maybe he'll come out and be like the comeback player of the year. But by the way he has been treating the off season, I kind of doubt that. So yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't. I'm not holding my breath, but maybe he'll come out and be a superstar. I don't know.
Brandon, are you confident in Big Ben this coming season?
No. No.
Are you, Robert?
I am actually. I'm different from a lot of people. I do feel like he can actually come back and be successful. Obviously, Big Ben's not the best at off-season programs, as Shane, you've outlined. But I do feel like he'll come back better than ever. I think he needed this time off, if anything else. Look, the season last year wasn't that great, but Tomlin had probably the best. Last year was the best coaching season I've ever seen Tomlin have. It's even better than the Super Bowl seasons. I mean, the team had nothing, and they still found a way to finish 8-8, and they could have even made the playoffs. Oh, I remember there were so many weeks where we felt they had a shot. This team is built to win right now, and Big Ben taking the year off, I think it can actually help them. And I think Tomlin has a system in place to get them up to speed really quickly, I should say, and find a way to actually be competitive in the AFC. Let's go on to our X Factor players for this team. Actually, Brandon, you go first for X Factors for this Steelers organization.
Maybe Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, Juju didn't have a great season last year.
Know.
Didn't have a great season last year, but he needs to have a big season for this team to be successful as well, right, Brandon?
Yeah.
What would be yours, Shane?
My X Factor, I would say, yeah, I'll go Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Great trade in hindsight, right?
Yeah, because when you look at this team, they have their, on offense, I think they can be successful with what they have. I don't know what Big Ben's going to be like. James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster are obviously good when they're healthy. Ebron, yeah, whatever. Their O-line is decent, as we all know. And, yeah, they have a good front seven. But their secondary is always what kind of concerns me. And I mean, he is just a great anchor for that secondary. He is arguably the best free safety in the league. And Robert, you and I were talking about him maybe winning Defensive Player of the Year,
right?
Which I wouldn't have expected when the season started. But that just goes to show you the kind of impact that he has on this team, especially having a guy like him shine out through the rest of that really good front seven. So yeah, Minkah is my guy.
I'm gonna go James Conner. Injuries are a massive concern with him. I don't know what his future is long term with this organization, but as for right now, he has to stay healthy, because when he's healthy and on the field, he's productive and can help this offense. It's just about if he stays healthy. The receivers are great too. James Washington, Dante Johnson as well. And Shane, you mentioned TJ Watt as well. Devin Bush, their second-year player. So some good pieces on this team. All right, let's move on to let's see. We're moving on to the Cleveland Browns. Okay, so Brandon, I'll start with you. Of course, the Browns have been a hot topic on the show for a long time for one reason and one reason only: the maturity of one Baker Mayfield, but also this entire roster. Is Baker's maturity the key for this team to actually find a way in the playoffs next year because of the talent on this team, or is there more to it?
I don't know if this team. Well, yeah, I would say that Baker's maturity is one part of it, but I would also say, honestly, I feel like the team needs to kind of shed some of their egos, some of their bigger egoed players, because you can't have a bunch of superstars and think you're just gonna click. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
If they're humble, they can.
But the players they have are not humble in any way.
No. So Shane, with Kevin Stefanski, and of course he's kind of unsure of who will call plays, but I mostly put in the story to also speak on Stefanski. Can Stefanski get this team on the right foot? Is he the right coach for this group?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a matter of getting the best coach because I mean, like Brennan said, at this point, I think it's more an issue of just getting all these players' egos under control, and I mean, I don't know who would do that because there is a lot of talent on this team. I mean, let's just be honest; they're pretty stacked. But if you can't, but if you can't get them to be humble and work together, then I mean, what's the point? You know what I mean? Um, they're just going to go 6-10 or whatever, like they did last year. Granted, I think Freddie Kitchens was part of the problem last year.
He was horrible. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
no, he was not great. I don't think he will. I don't think Stefanski will be nearly as bad as him. But I mean, this team, it could go either way. I mean, you could either have them with another season like they had last year, or they could click and I mean they could really pop and end up like 11-5. I don't think that would happen, but it is a possibility. So yeah.
Shane, who's your X factor for this team?
For me, I would say Nick Chubb because now I don't normally go with running backs, but this is a team where Baker can be good. He has his moments. And Odell can be good. He has his moments. And same with Landry and Austin Hooper and whatever. But they're not really reliable. They're not consistent. They're loud. They're distracting. But Nick Chubb is just always a really solid player. You can always count on him to get big yards, to carry your offense. And I think that's really key for them to have that guy who is just always reliable and will always get you the tough yards you need. And that's exactly what he is. So, I think he is definitely the most important part of at least the offense, but more so maybe even the team in general. So,
Brandon, who's yours for this Browns team?
I would say thanks, Shane, for taking my pick.
yeah, you're welcome, man.
Um, hmm. I'm gonna go with Odell
Mm.
because Odell needs to get his shit together, and he needs to stop being so. If he can stop being such a diva, I believe him and Baker Mayfield could combine for a lot of touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think Baker Mayfield's a bad quarterback. I think he's actually quite good when he has his stuff together. But when you have Odell and Jarvis Landry, who are both have egos the size of the moon, it's gonna be a little hard.
Jarvis is a little bit less, but
You have to admit his is still pretty big.
yeah, but I mean, Odell said he has unfinished business here in Cleveland. We'll see how that looks like. But since you brought up Baker, Brandon, last question for the Browns: is this the last season for Baker? If they finish 6-10, are they seriously going to consider moving on from him or no?
No, I think it. Well,
Can I chime in?
it's a tough one. Yeah, go ahead.
I think Case Keenum will start this year,
Really?
Wow.
about halfway through the season, especially if Baker is not doing well, because Stefanski was in Minnesota, wasn't he?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Well, look who was also in Minnesota
Yep.
and got
Same
them
time frame.
to an NFC championship. Case Keenum. If you look at their numbers, okay, if you compare their first 29 or however many starts Baker's had, if you compare their, I think it's 29. If you compare their first starts, Case Keenum is better than Baker in every category. So, you know, especially if, because Case Keenum, he's not egotistical like Baker. He's pretty quiet, just kind of does his thing. I wouldn't be surprised, man, if, we get a few games into the season and um, Baker is not doing well, and we see like a Mariota Tannehill type thing. He just says, okay, well, we're going to try Case Keenum out, and then they win a bunch of games. I don't know.
So you felt like this Case Keenum signing wasn't a backup signing. You felt it was something more than that. You felt it was kind of like pressure for Baker.
Kind of. I mean, it's not saying like, I don't think it's them saying, yeah, we're going to move on from Baker, but it's like, hey, if you don't pick up and start playing well, we got this guy here who's ready. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Brandon, do you have any last thoughts on Baker?
I don't know. I feel like Baker at some point will be successful. I like maybe. I think at some point we're gonna have a conversation about whether it's not just whether it's the players or if it's uh the team.
Just like the organization.
Yeah, because like there's two organizations in the league that I could legitimately say are the problem: the Browns and the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right, and then our final team here is the Cincinnati Bengals. Shane, I'll start with you. We obviously mentioned Joe Burrow. Expectations on him now going from LSU to Cincinnati.
I don't like it.
You don't like it.
No, I think they're setting him up for failure, to be honest. Um, because I mean, if you just look at this division, I mean, they have, I mean, that's three really good defensive lines that he has to face for his crappy offensive line. I mean, he's going to get thrown around and absolutely demolished. Um, and I mean, there's games like Philly, uh, tough team. It's just I don't, or like Tennessee, or even I don't know.
Houston,
Houston, yeah, Houston,
Baltimore at
Dallas,
the end.
maybe. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I really think that I mean, he's not. I mean, Burrow's not a. He's one of those guys that's like that I think will be a good college quarterback, but not necessarily a good NFL quarterback. Because he's like I think it was Colin Coward was saying that his NFL comp is like Tony Romo, and I think that's
Yeah,
absolutely right. Um, and I mean, I don't think Romo is really ever that amazing.
better broadcaster than he was player, that's for sure.
Yeah, but when you consider the fact that he's also going to a really crappy organization, That's kind of, yeah. I don't have much hope for Joe Burrow, but I mean, I wish him well, obviously, but I don't know.
Brandon, with Zach Taylor there, and he's trying to sort of build a culture there, and it starts with the quarterback position. Can Zach Taylor put a system and a team around him to help him be successful in Joe Burrow?
You know, Joe Burrow was good in college, but the NFL is a whole nother deal. And he's going to have 2 preseason games to prepare. I would not be surprised if Joe Burrow has a very rough season. But the good news is Cincinnati won't be that surprised because they've been used to it.
Yeah. And then, Brandon, I'll start with you. Who's your X factor for this Bengals team?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna go with
There are some nice options, I'll say that.
Yeah.
Dude, Michael Jordan came out of
I
retirement?
know, right? I'm gonna go with AJ Green.
Yeah, had an injury last year.
Yeah.
But do you expect big things out of him, and do you
Well,
think he can help
I
Burrow?
mean, I think the reason he's my X factor is because I think he could be like a security blanket a little bit for Burrow. Just really good wide receiver for a new quarterback, especially a quarterback that has just left a system where he had like 3 amazing wide receivers to throw to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Shane, what is your X factor for this team?
I would say AJ Green, except I think he's kind of out of his prime. So I don't know if it's necessarily him. But I'll go on the defensive side and say Geno Atkins. Because he's that one player on this organization that like really gives me hope. You know what I mean? Where it's
He has for years.
Yeah, where you can constantly, like, you always know that he's a really good lineman and that he'll always apply pressure to the quarterback and whatever. But I mean, overall this team is just, I mean, they have some good individual players, but they're just kind of a mess, really. And I don't know. It's weird because, just like what, 3 or 4 years ago, they were making the playoffs and all this stuff, and now here they are. So, but yeah, Atkins is my guy, but
It's
what about you?
interesting because they're. Oh, sorry, Shane. Are you finished?
No,
Or
I was just gonna say, what about you?
yeah. So here's the thing. This team has some young pieces around them. I think. I mean, obviously the D line's a little bit older with Dunlap, and of course you mentioned Geno Atkins, DJ Reader, Sam Hubbard out of Ohio State, I believe. So a local guy, Carl Lawson as well. So this D line has some young pieces, but this offense is just filled with young guys. Joe Mixon is still developing, but he's become one of the best running backs in the league to some degree. He's had some up and down seasons, but he's their main guy for a reason. I
I
like
think he's
this.
kind of overrated.
Yeah, I can see that as well. But they are committed to him, and
Not bad though.
Yeah, they are committed to him. They will have to see what happens with those contract negotiations as time goes on. But this receiving core, I think John Ross was hoping for a much better year from him last year. He was my X factor last year. That didn't pan out very well. I think he needs a change of scenery. Maybe going back to Seattle, being a local kid would make the most sense. I just think he needs a change of scenery. But Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, who they just drafted, I love Auden Tate as well. Line's okay. But the secondary is not too bad. Trey Waynes, Mackenzie Alexander. Trey Waynes, pretty much an up-and-down career. I like Von Bell a lot. William Jackson, I believe, went through an injury last year, but he's such an underrated corner. But I'm going to go actually with, let's see, I'm going to go with Auden Tate, actually. I think as a slot receiver, he can be really productive for Burrow, so I'll go in the wide receiving group as well. I think he can be a really helpful piece for Burrow. This whole receiving core can help Burrow out a lot and save him from a lot of trouble, I think. And then finally, we're doing record predictions. Shane, would you like to go first for the record predictions for this division?
I would be truly honored. So first place, I think, will be the Ravens. No brainer there. At 13-3. Then this is tough. Okay, well, last place I'm going to say the Bengals at 5-11. And the 2 and 3 spots, I could go either way on this. But I'll say Steelers second at 9-7, and Browns third at 8-8. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems pretty fair. Brandon, what is yours?
So I'm gonna go with Ravens first. I'm gonna go with Browns second, Steelers third, Bengals last.
And what would be the records for those 4 teams?
I'm gonna go 12-4 for the Ravens. I'm gonna go 8-8 for the Browns because I think they will continue their trend. And I think the Steelers will go 7-9. And I think the Bengals will bangle it up at like 4-12.
Yeah, pretty even. I mean, other than
Not much of a jungle.
Yeah. I mean, Baltimore is the clear winner, and then the rest, I think, can kind of go either way.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for a great show as always. Shane and Brandon always enjoy when us three get together and do these shows. Happy 4th of July to you and your families.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Same for all of you out there. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great 4th of July weekend. We'll be back next week. I believe 2 shows as always, as we normally do, 2 shows a week. So we'll see you back next week. Have a great 4th of July weekend, everybody.
Have a fun, safe 4th of July.
Yes, safe. Absolutely. 100%.